Hello there, everybody, and welcome here to another Kerfuffle Showcase. And I am delighted to welcome Rebecca and Chris from HBB. Hello, gents and ladies. How are you today?
Hi, Simon. I'm really well, thanks. Are you?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, absolutely perfect. Sorry, I've got a bit of a frog in the throat, but I'll keep with my kerfuffle container, keeping myself there. Guys, do you want to just get into, would you mind just giving us an interview, just introducing yourselves and just giving us a really quick elevator pitch, just so that people can understand what your solution potentially has to offer the agents that are out there?
Yeah, with pleasure. Yeah. Hi, Simon. I'm Chris Hodgkinson. I'm the MD of HBB. Bex, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Rebecca. I'm head of sales here at HBB. I look after the B2B arm of our business, and I'm the main point of contact for everything: part exchange, chain repair, and guaranteed purchase.
So you're the stuff that makes the magic happen, basically.
That's it. That's exactly it, Simon. Perfectly put.
Bex is the person to talk to.
Yeah. Well, I'll come back to you for the elevator pitch now, Chris. That's where we position ourselves, isn't it? Where we pretend that's where we add value.
Absolutely.
So, as my understanding is, you're a specialist chain repair and part exchange company, aren't you? Though, so many agents will have seen things these out there. Do you want to just give an overview of how the company started, though, and what you guys do a little bit differently?
Yeah. Shall I pick up on that first, Bex? So,
yeah, perfect.
So we were launched 11 years ago, July 2010, and originally we set up as we were direct to the customer. We branded as House Buyer Bureau, and we saw a gap in the market, I suppose, for a sort of a quick purchase business. There was lots of firms out there that we thought were probably a little bit maybe unprofessional, but smaller businesses. So we thought we could build a business that bought houses quickly for cash on a national scale. So we sort of operated direct to customers for about 6 to 7 years until about 2016. And then we saw a gap in the market to work with the likes of estate agents, developers, assisted sale companies, and asset managers. So we set up our B2B arm in 2016, and then we got into part exchange and chain repairing in quite a big way, really.
So how does the process work then, Chris? Just talk us through the basics.
Bex, that's probably one for you, I think, if that's okay.
So it's really simple, really straightforward, Simon. Our partner agents would get in touch with us, email or phone. We're really flexible. Let us know the situation they've got with their customer, whether it's crisis point because they've had a sale fall through and they need our help, or whether it's just a guaranteed purchase and the property's not even on the market. So we would talk through about the property, get us a bit of information. If the property is in the patch of the agent, then we would ask them to help us with a bit of a valuation and some photographs, send it all in to us, and then we would come back to the agent with an offer within sort of 24 to 48 hours of us having the info.
Would my perception be wrong, because it so often is, what you mentioned there, if it's one of those crisis point sales, is that where the majority of these are, or is that how it used to be kind of in the past, or is that still quite a common feature?
It's a real mixed bag, to be honest, Simon. We do get calls where the sale has fallen through and they are at crisis points and they want to keep that transaction going, and we'll step in and act really, really quickly. So although I said 24 to 48 hours, we can do it quicker if you've got a customer that really needs us to get on and get it turned around really quickly. Some of them may be probate properties where they just want to get the transaction done really quickly, and some will be part exchange where they're buying a new build if your agents have a landed new homes team, for example. So it's a real mixed bag of the sort of stuff we get.
Okay.
I'll just say we also tend to work with a lot of probably elderly people, some that don't want the hassle and the stress and the sort of interruption of their daily life by having people view their house. So a lot of elderly people that maybe have seen a bungalow they want to buy and want to proceed with no stress and no hassle. We do a lot of business with that sort of sector of the marketplace too.
Yeah, we definitely saw an increase in that during COVID.
Yeah.
During the lockdown, although agents were able to carry out viewings, a lot of their customers didn't want viewings to happen. You know, they felt vulnerable or maybe had some underlying health conditions. So we were a solution for them, Simon, in that we were able to make an offer and buy the property without having to have agents internally visit or viewings internally visit.
But it's not just COVID, is it? I mean, the whole market, given how it's been the last, well, certainly year, is, it's just created such a headache in terms of what can go wrong. My own parents trying to move, I've had three moves fall through already. So I can really understand why that would be, somebody wanting to take themselves out of that whole process.
It takes all the pressure and stress away. I mean, I've just I've just sold a car, and the amount of time you spend with people coming to look at your product and spend ages talking to you, looking at it, trying to decide what to do, and then the sort of decision process can take such a long time, which becomes quite stressful for you. Where at least with us, it's straightforward. We do our due diligence. We make an offer. Once the offer is accepted, we can then complete within, well, a matter of days. We've actually done same day completions before. I mean, that's quite a tall order, but I think it was October last year we did a same day completion from offer to completion. So, when the need is there, we can act very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's really impressive, isn't it? And just to be clear, you're working hand in glove with agents rather than being seen as a competitive service.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just another string to their bow. It's another tool in their toolbox that when an agent's presenting to a customer, or a customer's got a problem and they need a solution for it, they can talk to us. We're not there to take business away. We're there to enhance the product they can offer their customers.
And you were talking about there, obviously a fairly unusual one, but Rebecca, you were talking about, sometimes it can be as quick as 24 hours or 48 hours. On average, though, when there isn't, quite the same level of stress in terms of time there, is there anything like an average amount of time to actually get an offer?
It really depends. We'll work to the customer's timescales, but on average, I'd probably say it's somewhere between 14 and 21 days.
That's to completion, isn't it?
To completion, yeah.
Okay, and of course, I suppose one of the areas that people would feel nervous about is the valuation of the property itself, isn't it? How do you get across to people that this isn't going to just sort of feel like some sort of enforced valuation that is going to put a pressure on them? How does that element of your service work?
Chris?
Yeah, so we're there to initially what we want to do is try and arrive at a valuation figure, which we would call our target sort of resale price.
Yeah.
So we ultimately want to make sure that the customer, we're all aligned in terms of value if we can be. So we would to try and arrive at value, which can be a little bit tricky, I suppose, in today's market, but to try and arrive at what we think is a fair value, then we would certainly talk to the local agent that's introduced the property to us and take their advice. What do they think the house would sensibly make on the open market? We might then take it a little bit further afield and speak to a second agent in that location. And then we would do the standard stuff. So we'd look at prices achieved historically, we'd look at recent prices achieved, look at the supply, look at the demand, the condition of the property, fairly standard stuff that an agent would do. We're all ex-estate agents. We've been in the business for quite a long time, but we're not trying to force a value and say, well, this is what we think it's worth. We're very open to engaging with agents in the area and take their advice. And what we sometimes can also do is if there's a property where the value is a little bit uncertain, then we can also offer additional funds payable once we've sold it. So if a house sells more than what we all think it's going to sell for, we'll happily give that balance back to the seller once we've resold it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And that, I think that's really important, that you've got so much agency background knowledge as well there, isn't it? So again, it's not somebody coming outside of industry and everything else there. You really understand what the agents are going through at the front lines.
Yeah, and we understand, the market's fairly active at the moment, which is great news for sellers and agents, and therefore, sometimes arriving at value can be a little bit harder. So we do have quite in-depth conversations with the sellers, because sometimes, if they've achieved over an asking price on a property around the corner, we've got to make sure that we know that, we understand that, because ultimately, we do want to give the customer the best price we can. I mean, we have to trade it obviously with a profit, but we do want to pay the customer as much as we can. That's the aim. And if our offer levels are too low, the deals just don't work. So,
and talk us through that, Chris. What do you typically pay?
So most of the people we deal with are customers where there's an onward purchase, and at the moment we've got lots of onward purchase with broken chains, where the chain's either too slow or there's issues with the chain further down, and where in those circumstances we have an exemption from stamp duty. So obviously we save ourselves the stamp duty costs. So typically where we're stamp duty exempt, we buy with a discount of about 8% or thereabouts. So it's not that significant. So about an 8% discount below what we think we can sell it for.
Yeah. Okay. And why would and why should an agent think about recommending you to their vendors? And what I mean, you mentioned there obviously if the chains are struggling and everything else there. Are there other scenarios though where they should be recommending it?
If you've got adverse surveys, so where you've got properties with short lease, structural repairs, Japanese knotweed, maybe it could be above commercial premises. So, where a typical buyer and a buyer's lender might not be willing to lend, because we're a cash buyer, we can buy virtually anything in any location in any condition. So, where maybe there's issues on survey and buyers change their mind, we can step in and proceed very, very quickly. That's a big thing to us. But at the moment, the biggest demand for our product is, without any hesitation, is coming from customers that had a sale which they were reliant on to move forward on their onward, and that sale has collapsed, and we've seen a massive increase in that in those opportunities over the last two months, I would have thought.
Okay, and just broadly speaking, what sort of volume of agents you're working with?
So we work with lots and lots of agents, Bex, up and down the UK. But and you might be able to put a bit more meat on the bone, but whether they're agents, we work with agents that might give us 1 unit a year. We work with agents that might give us 1 unit a month. So we get our business comes from from quite a big spread of introducers. We even have auction houses that might introduce to us, where maybe they've put the property to auction, maybe the guide price was a little bit too high, it didn't sell. Customers' motivation is incredibly strong, they need to sell it, so we brought properties to auction houses, estate agents, assisted sale companies, developers. So we work with quite a big sort of client base, really. But Bex, you have a lot of you look after the relationships with the agents mainly, so you can probably help some of them.
I do. Yeah, we work with everyone from agents with a land and new homes department, all the way down to single offices in a local town. So there's no minimum that they need to refer to us. If it's one every couple of months, that's great. If it's 10 a month, that's great. We work with everyone and anyone.
So I was going to ask you on that, Rebecca, in terms of what kind of some solutions work for different types of agents, and they might not work for others. But in your case, that's not that really isn't it. It can be across the board, really.
Yeah, absolutely, across the board. It doesn't really matter on what size office they are. When we first engage with an agent, it's quite interesting how receptive they are, because it may not have been something that they'd even considered that a company like us exists. Yeah. And I know that from when I was an agent, if I knew there was a HBB out there, I would have definitely been referring it to my customers should their need arise. Definitely.
What would you say, Rebecca, is the kind of awareness where it is at the moment out there? I mean, just literally, just in terms of percentage, what percentage of agents know that solutions like you exist, do you reckon?
I think very little, actually. I think there's definitely scope for us to educate more estate agents so that they know companies like HBB are here and we can offer them a solution to their customers, and try and accelerate some of their sales and help them through the process.
If only there was a website dedicated to raising people's profile in the industry. We'll have
If
to
only.
we'll have to have a look out there and see what we can do. I'll tell you what you said there though, Chris, as well. That makes perfect sense to me on the auction side of things, because of course auctions in itself is meant to have some sort of certainty, finality about it.
Yeah.
That's too much. So if you've encouraged the vendor to be thinking that way, and for whatever reason it hasn't gone through, that's the most stressful point of that relationship, isn't it?
We work particularly with a lot of these sort of online type businesses, and where maybe it's a conditional auction contract rather than an unconditional auction contract. So maybe a buyer is committed to it, paid a reservation fee. They've got, I don't know, 30 or 60 days to proceed to completion, but have been unable to meet that time scale. And then obviously, over that period of time, the motivation of the seller, grows, and therefore the urgency to sell it is more so. But another point is the, working with estate agents. I think a lot of agents are quite cautious. I was in estate agency for, 20 years, I think it was, a long time, show my age. And I think a lot of agents are still quite cautious about dealing with firms like us if they don't know us and there's no, they don't totally understand our products and they maybe haven't got the trust in us. But, we've been around, as I said earlier, for 11 years. We've got some amazing testimonials. We work with a lot of the PLCs out there as well. So we understand about reputational risk, and we understand about delivering what we say we're going to deliver. So, I
mean, that's it, isn't it, really, Chris, in a nutshell? There is people, what you realize once you've recommended a solution into them, to a large degree you own that relationship, and if you don't have that understanding there, then of course you always will be a little bit reticent. Not just I don't think it's just agents do it. So that testimonial and that experience, the fact you've been around for so long, really critically matters here. So let's just look at it from both sides then, if that's okay. What does the public say going through this process? I mean, are they, on the whole, is it a good experience that they feedback to yourselves? As you said, you were talking about those ones earlier that didn't want to go through the full hassles and the horrors of the normal process. Just talk to us about what your actual the end clients say about you on that.
I think, maybe you can put a help on this, Bex, but we've had some amazing feedback. Genuinely amazing feedback. We got some feedback, I think it was last week, where we were described as the Carlsberg of property buyers. The old Carlsberg advert.
You're talking to the converted here.
Yeah. So, we genuinely have got loads and loads of really positive feedback, and we've got that on our HBB Solutions website. We've got loads on our House Buyer Bureau website where we direct to customer. And, it's if the customer wants the reliability and the speed and the professionalism, and they don't want the stress and they don't want the uncertainty, that's where we come in. And, it's not... yes, the customer will achieve more on the open market. They will achieve whatever it is, 7-8% more than selling to us. But there's no fees. It's straightforward. It's quick. And it's a guaranteed transaction. I suppose that's the big thing that there's no risk when they sell.
Certainty, isn't it? Certainty is such a massive one. Yeah. And is there ever a case where it's not right for somebody that you would like go back to and say, look, we just don't think this works? Or does that just all as we so often just come down to not being able to find agreement on the valuation?
Yeah, there are circumstances where, we know that we won't be the best route for the customer. And if we're not the best route for the customer, we'll be very open, honest, and tell the customer not the best route. We will consider virtually anything. We've got a property in the buying pipeline at the moment, which we're buying for £1.5 million. We've also bought stuff as low as £6,000-7,000 in value. So we're quite flexible what we buy. But if you've got a £5 million mansion, we're not going to be the best route, because we won't be. And where sellers absolutely need to maximize their sale price, if they've got minimal equity and they need to absolutely maximize the sale price to facilitate their onward purchase, then because we need a discount, our offering might not work. Although I would suggest that in circumstances like that, if you've got a chain of 4 or 5 houses, our discount or our fee, however you want to position it, doesn't have to come from one person. So that discount can effectively be spread across the chain. So if our discount was, say, £15,000,
yeah,
and you've got 5 people in the chain, then effectively, if they each contribute £3,000 to that transaction, we can still put it together. So
it does make sense. And so on a kind of day-to-day basis, how do you actually work with the agent to get those deals done? What will the agent experience dealing with yourself, Rebecca?
We've certainly built a reputation for being reliable, easy to work with, really flexible. We work really closely with our partner agents, and they're key for us, Simon, because without them, we can't identify their customers that need us.
Yeah.
So we do work really closely with our agents and help support them in whatever their customer may need from us.
Okay, and how do you work with them to offer the service to their vendors, or how does that work in terms of or do you pick up the conversation at some stage? How does that element of actually selling the service work?
We're quite flexible. It depends on how the agent wants to work. The majority of the agents that we partner with do like to keep a degree of control over the transaction. So we're sort of second hand, if you like, and they maintain the relationship direct with their customer. But at the same time, I've had many conversations with customers direct where the agent thinks it would be beneficial for us to explain it firsthand. So we're quite flexible on how the agent wants to work.
Okay, good. And so you do listen to the agent's concerns and work hand in glove, depending on what their approach is, rather than just having a one size fits all.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
And so, what do you do with the properties that you buy? Then is the $1 million question, isn't it? What happens to those ones on the other end of the scale?
We sell them on. Really simple. We sell them on, and we typically give them back to the agent that introduced them.
Well, that was going to be the next question. Yeah,
in their patch. Yeah.
So there's a double bubble benefit, really.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's really good. And so, what kind of? I suppose it just comes back to how many they introduce back to you. Then it comes out the other side, and it's a fairly logical one. Is there any degree of certainty on that, or is that just sort of something that is just done ad hoc with each deal?
In terms of them getting the property back?
Yeah, just in terms of getting it back. I mean, is there any scenario, I suppose, when it might not go back to them?
If it wasn't in their area, Simon, if there was a property in, I don't know, London, for example, and they were a Nottingham agent, then we may not feel that they were the best person to sell the property for us. But as long as it's in their patch, we're very happy to give it back to them. We'd give them an exclusivity period. So they would have sort of first bite of the cherry at trying to get it sold for us. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we have to get these properties sold. Cool. So if we felt that things had gone a bit stale, we may later down the line, out of that exclusivity period, instruct a second agent to help us get it sold.
Yeah, but they're going to be as motivated as they can be, aren't they, to get
exactly.
Yeah. What else do you? I mean, this is obviously placed as a kind of chain repair service. What do you offer anything else beyond that? Are there other elements to what you guys do?
Yeah, we offer part exchange services. So if their customers are buying a new build, we can work alongside the agent on the developer to offer part exchange, so they don't need to have had a sale fall through. We can offer that to their land and new homes teams, so they can go out and speak to developers. If they don't offer an in-house part exchange service, they can offer what's called a third party, having us involved. And our third product is just a guaranteed purchase. So if they've got a customer that's not buying a new build, that isn't on the market and had a sale fall through, but they know that that customer just wants a guaranteed purchase, then we can step in and buy that property from that customer as well.
We do quite a bit of business with people who've got health issues. as well. So, you know, I touched on the elderly people earlier, but it's, you know, we buy also for people that, you know, maybe want the discretion of an off-market transaction rather than a non-market transaction, if that makes sense. So, you know, some people are quite private people, and, you know, don't like necessarily to have their lifestyle sort of exposed to the open market, if that makes sense. So we buy, you know, we buy a lot of houses from people that just want a straightforward off-market transaction. We bought a property a number of months ago from a lovely family, but they were very private people, and they, you know, you've got to respect they lived their life very privately, and, you know, they didn't want lots of people viewing the house. So the agent, you know, picked that point up with the seller. The seller, you know, was quite clear that, you know, they wanted to sell. They wanted to sell to buy an onward new build, actually. But what they didn't want to do is have lots of people traipsing around their house to view it. So the agent, who we do quite a bit of business with, put it through to Bex. Bex submitted the offer very, very quickly, and, you know, we went ahead with the purchase, and the sellers onward all came together. So, yeah.
Cool. And there's, I'm right, there's no exclusivity. It's not like you've got postcode exclusivity for agents, is it? Anyone can work with you if that's if they want to.
Yeah, anyone can work with us. No exclusions on where we buy in England and Wales. We are slightly postcode specific in Scotland, and we don't buy in Northern Ireland at the moment.
Well, that's helpful to understand. Great. And so, guys, what's the best way that agents sign up with you? And I'll follow on from that in the initial process, because of course, you know, it'd just be interesting to know is, if they sign up with you on the dotted line, how soon is it then for them to be able to realistically start running with this?
As quick as they want to. There's no formal period of having to wait for anything. You know, we'll happily have a conversation with an agent if they want to put something to us to see if it's something we'd be interested in, and we can get going.
So all of the offers we make on a sort of there's no obligation. People can, the agent can approach us on behalf of the customer. We'll submit the offer to the agent if they then want to submit it to the customer. There's no obligation, there's no tie-in, there's no commitment. So we would obviously, if we put the deal together, we would confirm to the agent that the terms of the offer and the terms of the commissions payable to the agent. But actually, in terms of getting an offer, they can talk to us today, and we'll try and get the offer out this afternoon.
Okay, that's really good. And have you seen with the agents, as you said, having something else in your kit bag? I'm imagining that can become quite a compelling pitch. Have you actually witnessed and seen those agents where they're able to kind of communicate that to the potential vendors? Because there's going to be no reason why they you know, that's going to really appeal to some people, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We've seen that, particularly where agents have been able to help not just their customer, but someone else further down in the chain, where maybe that customer's agent doesn't know about us or work with us. So the agents have been able to help someone else in their chain, not just their direct customer.
How does that happen in reality then, Rebecca? Do they, obviously their agent will be updating them of the problems going down in the chain? Do they just then, has their agent made them aware that they can offer your skills down there, and they just reach out to them directly? How does that happen in practice?
Yeah, exactly that, Simon. So they identify that there's an issue further down the chain. Maybe, you know, it's already fallen. The top of the chain is still complete, but they need to find a buyer at the bottom. The agent then introduces us to that customer. We'll make an offer and keep the chain together.
So rather than being known as some certain online agents as the devils of the chain, you can actually go the other way and be the hero and save the whole thing.
That's it. We're a white horse.
I think some of the agents are also quite proactive, aren't they, Bex, in terms of promoting the products?
Yes.
So, you know, we've got a couple of agents that introduced to us a lot of business, and they've actually built designated specific landing pages on their website where they actually advertise and promote the product. So, you know, I think as an agent, if you can, you know, you can almost talk to your customers and promote a product that actually, we can guarantee to sell your house. And we've got agents to say that, with our work, that have worked with our marketing team, our own marketing department, and actually built marketing material and specific landing pages, which they can then utilize on valuations on their website and local papers and stuff like that.
Excellent, excellent. And what's anything else? Are you working on other stuff as well to kind of further develop the proposition here, or is it just a case of you wanting to get this, as you said, get the awareness out there and just make sure people know that you're potentially there for them to help out if they are struggling, as many are with difficult chains?
Yeah, I mean, our focus really at the moment is to try and work with agents up and down the UK. That's our focus. That's our background. It's what we understand. We're really keen to try and sort of work with as many partner agents as we can, or certainly engage with them and try and talk to them and explain how our product works. So as and when they've got an opportunity and they've got a customer where they think our product might suit them, they know where we are. Any
particular areas of the country, Chris, you're looking at?
We tend to, we cover all of the UK. We tend to sort of buy most of our stock from probably North London upwards. In terms of central London, we don't do as much, maybe because there's a bit of uncertainty over sort of the stock in London, maybe a little bit harder to value with low leases and the issues with fire risk safety certificates and all that sort of stuff. But we buy stuff all over the place, genuinely all over the place.
And that's the attraction of the service, isn't it? So,
absolutely, yeah.
And for everyone to take advantage of. Well, that's really, really good, guys. Thank you for taking the time to update us, and indeed everyone else there. I'm sure there'll be some questions back. What's the best way of reaching out to you directly?
You can email us at px@hbbsolutions.co.uk, or directly to myself, Rebecca, at hbbsolutions.co.uk, or pick up the phone. Our details will be on your website.
Perfect, absolutely right. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, that's the one thing I forgot to do. Yeah, go to kerfuffle.com. In the search bar, just look for HBB Solutions, and you can read, as always, you'll be able to see this recording, any other ones we do in the months ahead. I think it'd be really interesting to have some of the agents on here talking about how they're particularly using it. That's going to be always really interesting to hear how the end client is experiencing this. But yeah, go on to the landing page, guys. There's an inquiry button on there, and anything you put in there will obviously forward on to Chris and Rebecca and the team to hopefully help out further. For today, though, guys, thank you very much. That's been really helpful.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Simon.
Thanks for your time, Simon. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.